Dave Mustaine, the famous guitarist and the founder of the legendary heavy metal band, Megadeth. Megadeth would go on to sell over 25 million albums, and tour the world many times over. Today, Mustain is considered one of the most brilliant and influential musicians in the history of heavy metal music. In 1983 got kicked out of the band Metallica, which has sold over 180 million albums worldwide. Metallica is considered by many to be one of the greatest rock bands of all time. He vowed to build a new band that would be so successful that his old band would forever regret their decision. He spent months recruiting the best musicians, and wrote dozens of songs, and practiced religiously. Within a couple years, his new band had signed a record deal of their own, and a year after that, their first record would go gold. In an interview in 2003, a tearful Mustain admitted that he still considered himself a failure, as his band sold lesser copies than Metallica. In his mind, he would always be the guy who got kicked out of Metallica. He adopted success relative to Metallica as the metric by which to measure himself and his music career. Mustain's metric of being better than Metallica likely helped him launch an incredibly successful music career. But that same metric later tortured him in spite of his success. If you want to change how you see your problems, you have to change what you value, and how you measure failure and success. Onoda, he was second lieutenant of the Japanese Imperial Army who fought in World War II and did not surrender. After the end of war in 1945, he spent 29 years hiding in the Philippines, and surrendered in 1974. Onoda returned to Japan in 1974. And became a kind of celebrity in his home country, published a book, No Surrender, My 30-Year War. On December 26, 1944, Onoda was deployed to the small island of Lubang in the Philippines to slow the United States' progress, and fight at all costs, and to never surrender. After the end of war, the US, along with Japanese government, announced that the war was over. Through letters and pictures, Onoda and his men thought it to be a trap, to show themselves. So they remained hidden and continued to fight. By 1972, he remained unfound. And hence became part myth, part hero, and part ghost. Onoda finally returned Japan, and told that for nearly 30 years, he had simply been following an order to never surrender. He returned and found Japan to be a consumerist, capitalist, superficial culture that had lost all of the traditions of honor and sacrifice. He became more depressed than he was in jungle. When he found that, the Japan he had lived and fought for, no longer existed, and ultimately his 30 years wasted. Humans often choose to dedicate large portions of their lives to seemingly useless or destructive causes. Ernest Becker, Pulitzer Prize winner for his book, The Denial of Death. One of the most influential intellectuals of the 20th century, who shook up the fields of psychology and anthropology. In 1960, he got his PhD in anthropology. His doctoral research compared the practices of Zen Buddhism and psychoanalysis. First job assistant professor, but his practice of psychiatry was termed fascist and was fired. Second job Berkeley, California. But was fired within a year. Third job San Francisco State University, for more than a year. But was fired as he supported Vietnam protests with students. Got colon cancer. He spent the next few years bedridden and had little hope of surviving. So Becker decided to write a book. This book would be about death. He used teaching methods. He would use Shakespeare to teach psychology, psychology textbooks to teach anthropology, and anthropological data to teach sociology. His students adored him. The other faculty loathed him. Past failures does not define the contours of success, which remains independent of right age or moment.